Welcome to First Unitarian Church, where our mission is to explore the eternal, nurture community, and pursue the common good. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your spiritual journey and whatever your life circumstances, you are welcome here.
Our prelude prepares us for worship. This is I Know This Rose Will Open by Dr. Glenn Thomas Rideout from the First UU Congregation of Ann Arbor.
I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know, 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 I know. I know, 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 I know this rose, I know this rose, I know my fear, I know my fear, I know my soul, I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose, I know this rose, I know this rose, I know my fear, I know my fear, I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose, I know this rose, I know this rose, I know this rose, I know my fear, I know my fear, I know my soul, I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose, I know this rose, I know this rose, I know my fear, I know my fear, I know my soul will unfurl my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose, I know this rose, I know this rose, I know my fear will burn away, fear will burn away, soul will unfurl its wings, soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose, I know this rose, I know this rose, I know my fear will burn away, fear will burn away, soul will unfurl its wings, soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose, I open, open, fear will open. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open.
Our chalice lighter today is Rosalina Wagner. It was her, or it is going to be her birthday this coming week.
We light the chalice as a symbol of our sacred time together. The burning chalice represents the light of reason and science, the warmth of loving community, the cleansing heat of justice, and the flame of hope.
Our opening hymn today is one that will be new to most folks here, but it's one that fits so perfectly for this time during the pandemic. So I imagine we'll sing it a few more times together. This is called Just Such a Time as This by Amanda Udis Kessler. And I'm going to put the music up on the screen so you can sing along while muted, sadly, at home as we listen to the music. It's called Just Such a Time as This.
Filled with fear, laden with sadness, chaos and madness grow around us. Still we're here, risking and daring, endlessly caring. Hope has found us. Peace surrounds us. We were called for just such a time as this. For this time we were made. We give all our love and compassion, trust into action, even a as this, and we make this vow. We'll bring all our gifts to the table, do what we're able somehow, for we were called for just such a time as now. Touched by grief, stressed and exhausted, counting the losses, sorrow hounds us still again. We are invited, gently reminded, faith has found us. Grace astounds us. We were called for just such a time as this, for this time we were made. We give all our love and compassion, trust into action, even afraid. We were called for just such a time as this, and we make this vow. We'll bring all our gifts to the table, do what we're able somehow, for we were called for just such a time as now. We were called for just such a time as now.
Are You My Mother? Written by P.D. Eastman, narrated by Jack Roberge. Sat on her egg. The egg jumped. "Oh no," said the mother bird. "My baby will be here. He will want to eat. I must get something for my baby bird to eat. I will be back." So away she went. The egg jumped. It jumped, and jumped. Out came the baby bird. "Where is my mother?" he said. He looked for her. He looked up. He did not see her. He looked down. He did not see her. "I will go and look for her." Down out of the tree he went. Down, down, down. It was a long way down. The baby bird could not fly. He could not fly, but he could walk. "Now I will go and find my mother," he said. He did not know what his mother looked like. He went right by her. He did not see her. He came to a kitten. "Are you my mother?" he said to the kitten. The kitten just looked and looked. It did not say a thing. The kitten was not his mother, so he went on. Then he came to a hen. "Are you my mother?" he said to the hen. "No," said the hen. The kitten was not his mother. The hen was not his mother, so the baby bird went on. "I have to find my mother," he said. "But where is she? Where could she be?" Then he came to a dog. "Are you my mother?" he said to the dog. "I am not your mother. I am a dog," said the dog. The kitten was not his mother. The hen was not his mother. The dog was not his mother. So the baby bird went on. Now he came to a cow. "Are you my mother?" he said to the cow. "How could I be your mother?" said the cow. "I am a cow." The kitten and the hen were not his mother. The dog and the cow were not his mother. Did he have a mother? "I did have a mother," said the baby bird. "I know I did. I have to find her. I will, I will." Now the baby bird did not walk. He ran. Then he saw a car. Could that old thing be his mother? No, it could not be. The baby bird did not stop. He ran on and on. Now he looked way, way down. He saw a boat. "There she is," said the baby bird. He called to the boat, but the boat did not stop. The boat went on. He looked way, way up. He saw a big plane. "Here I am, mother," he called out. But the plane did not stop. The plane went on. Just then the baby bird saw a big thing. This must be his mother. There she is, he said. There is my mother. He ran right up to it. Mother, mother, here I am, mother, he said to the big thing. But the big thing just said snort. Oh, you are not my mother, said the baby bird. You are a snort. I have to get out of here. But the baby bird could not get away. The snort went up. It went way, way up. And up, up, up went the baby bird. But now, where was the snort going? Oh, 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 what is the snort going to do to me? Get me out of here. Just then the snort came to a stop. Where am I? Said the baby bird. I want to go home. I want my mother. Then something happened. The snort put that baby bird right back in the tree. The baby bird was home. Just then the mother bird came back to the tree. Do you know who I am? She said to her baby. Yes, I know who you are, said the baby bird. You are not a kitten. You are not a hen. You are not a dog or a cow. You are not a boat or a plane or a snort. You are a bird, and you are my mother.
Sandra Flansburgh has a reflection for us this morning.
Mothering is such a powerful thing. Just saying that out loud, I feel something bittersweet, calming, fiercely protective, and eternal. I'm lucky to have a really good role model in this area, and I grew up thinking that most people had mothers who loved them, helped them, irritated them at times, expertly used guilt and indirect control, and who wrapped them in safety. Unfortunately, I know better now. When I think back to the moments that were significant in terms of schooling me on the concepts of mothering, I believe there were three. The first was in the late 1980s and early 1990s when I moved to Boston as a 20-something. That was the first time that I really had to understand how my whiteness shaped my experiences, as I worked in a very racially diverse and income diverse group on equity and education. I worked particularly closely with two African American women colleagues and was shocked to learn about the talk that they had to have with their sons. The one about how police aren't your friends, that if you see a police officer on the street, walk away slowly. Keep your hands out of your pockets and visible. And no matter what they say or how they treat you, never, never show anger or attitude. You have to swallow those emotions to live another day. I had a hard time thinking about how you provide that sense of safety and protection that I had as a child, while also preparing them from a very young age to deal with an unjust world. The second moment was living in Costa Rica in the 1990s, in a place where gender roles were very much more defined and traditional. People tended to assume that being a woman meant being a mother, even if you didn't have children. Studying for a master's degree in women's studies there, I began to see how their understanding of maternity and mothers provided a different and really valuable standpoint, lifting up a different way of understanding and being in the world, one that highly valued the traditional work and the different experiences that women have. The third, of course, was becoming a mom. I was shocked at how radically and immediately the world shifted. It mattered not one iota that Catalina and I didn't share blood or DNA. As soon as I held her and she looked up at me at 6 months, I couldn't think about anything or anyone but her. It took us a few days to get used to one another, but from that first moment, all I wanted to do was look at her and absorb all that was this tiny and beautiful being. It was all-consuming. I was also puzzled to find that I absolutely couldn't bear to watch or hear about anything bad happening to any child. Eventually, of course, I had to learn boundaries so that Catalina had the space and oxygen for her spirit to flourish. I worked on that hard, and she's helped me work on that. Like as a baby, she would voice her annoyance at how much I was gazing at her in the rearview mirror when we drive around Boston. And older, she kept telling me to stop breathing with her at doctor's visits. It was also clear early on how some things are hardwired different between us. She's always met the world wanting to meet everyone and assumed they wanted to meet her. And mostly they did, to my amazement. I also learned how important adulting is. I had to learn to be able to move away from over-feeling the hurts and the slights she experienced and focus on helping and supporting her to develop her skills in taking care of herself and dealing with the world on her own terms. And it's been amazing to watch. It's really hard to know the beauty and the possibility and the vulnerability there, yet find the line to walk between providing safety and security and helping to shape a future adult who has incorporated that balance as well. All of these experiences of motherhood, before I was a mother and after, have shaped the way I view the world. They're perhaps why I've been so drawn during my parenting years to work like that of Voice, work that allows me to move out of my bubble across a lot of the boundaries of difference that normally separate us. The never-ending work of acting and reflecting, and working to support people to find their own voices and develop their own capacities. One thing I know, whether or not we mother our own children or those of others or mother other living things, it's a way of being in the world that's amazingly powerful. The first part of my favorite Judith Hill poem, Wage Peace, always moves me and comes very much from a place of mothering. Wage peace with your breath. Breathe in firemen and rubble, breathe out whole buildings and flocks of red-winged blackbirds. Breathe in terrorists and breathe out sleeping children in fresh mown fields. Breathe in confusion and breathe out maple trees. Breathe in the falling and breathe out lifelong friendships intact. Wage peace with your listening. Hearing sirens pray loud. Remember your tools, flower seeds, clothespins, clean rivers. Make soup, play music, memorize the words for thank you in 3 languages. Learn to knit and make a hat. Amen.
Thank you, Sandra. Every Sunday when we are together in church, we take an offering. Since 2002, all the cash and designated checks from that offering have gone directly to external nonprofit organizations doing good work in our community, our Change for Change partners. This month, however, because of the truly exceptional circumstances, the recipient of our Change for Change offering will be the minister's discretionary fund. The discretionary fund was established to enable the minister to provide confidential financial assistance to individuals and families, both within and outside of the congregation, who are experiencing pressing needs. So at this point, I'll play some music and give you all some time to make your donation to our special Change for Change. You may wish to make your donation using a credit card through our website, or this could be a good time to find your checkbook, write out a check, and put it aside to mail to First Unitarian tomorrow morning. Let today's offering reflect our highest aspirations for the work of the church in this world. This music is The Flute of the Infinite, the text by the Sufi poet Kabir, composed by Catherine Dalton.
The flute of the infinite plays, it plays, it plays, it plays.
we are welcoming into our community 4 new members who have chosen to make a commitment to this congregation by signing our membership book. Loriana, would you take over with our new members?
Absolutely. Our newest members are Deborah Blakely, Elizabeth Berner, I can say it, Elizabeth Berner, Deborah Kutzinger, and Lucille Green Ingram. Sadly, Lucille cannot be with us today, so we welcome those who are here. The moment when we enter into covenant, the one another is one of the holiest moments of our congregational life. New members, please recite in unison the words written in your order of service and appearing on your screen.
And I'm going to share my screen now so that you can see the words. You can do a split screen so that you can also see gallery view as we read together.
New member covenant. We enter this faith with hope and possibility in our hearts, pledging to participate in and support the ministries of this church. We covenant to remain true to the spirit of love that flows through this church and guides us. We seek your welcome as we join you in this space.
Thank you. And now, we had earlier planned to have the members of the membership committee read along with the congregational response, but because of the lag time and different systems, when we start to get a lot of voices, we start to run over each other. So I will just read the congregational response, and I hope that everyone else will stay muted, but read along. All of the members of the congregation, please still read along with me at home. You can see the words on your screen. We welcome you as once we were welcomed ourselves. We seek to be open and inclusive, respecting your inherent dignity, your ideas, and your vision in times when it is easy and in times when it is difficult. We seek to be supportive, not only when you reach out in courage to us, but when you need us to reach out to you. In return, we ask that you recognize our humanity. We will not always live up to our ideals. And when we fall short, we invite you to stay in relationship with us and help us more fully bring alive the spirit of love. We welcome you as equal members of this congregation, of this faith, and of our shared spiritual journey. Please join me in a spirit of prayer or meditation. Spirit of life, even when we must be physically apart, we are grateful for the blessing of community. As a community, we share in one another's joy and pain. Today, we celebrate the good news that Jeannie Parkhurst and her partner, Ryan Lacey, are expecting a baby boy in late September. What happiness to await the arrival of a beautiful new life into the world. Let's just take a moment and breathe in that joy. Even as we rejoice, we remember those who are struggling now. We especially hold in our hearts George Bauer, Jim Gordon, and Lana Henson, who are all fighting a hard battle with cancer. We remember those who are healing from serious illness, including Tim Larison, who also lost his beloved wife, Linda, recently. And we offer our love for all those who have lost a loved one. For all of these, as well as those who are struggling with unemployment and financial catastrophe, or who are challenged by addiction, domestic violence, depression, deep sadness, or loneliness at this hard time, we extend our care and love. And now, in silence, let us offer up the joys and concerns that rest in our hearts. Blessed be, and amen. On the way to becoming a minister, I had the opportunity to volunteer in a number of different correctional facilities in 3 different states, including a few prisons, a jail, a mental health unit for incarcerated men suffering from severe mental illness, and a halfway house for individuals who were transitioning out of prison and who were receiving treatment for their addictions prior to release. When I've forgotten pretty much everything else, I'm confident I will remember the faces of the people I met in those places, those who were incarcerated, as well as the correctional officers, the doctors, the social workers. The correctional officers I would mostly get to know through the casual chats we'd have as they took me through security or walked me from one unit to the next. A few of them were harsh and jaded. They would roll their eyes or mutter under their breath as we were greeted by the incarcerated men or women we passed along the way. Sometimes they would bark some command or reprimand, sometimes for no apparent reason. But many of the officers that I met were different. They seemed to really care about the people in those facilities. They would be careful to maintain a tough exterior, but under that armor, there was a tenderness that surprised me the first time I encountered it. They knew the incarcerated men and women by name, and they greeted them with a slight smile. There was one grandfatherly CO who would lightheartedly joke with some young man and then turn to me and ask with sadness, "What can we do to keep them out of here? What can we do to keep them from coming back?" And of course, it wasn't really a question. It was more like a lament. I would often think, what must it be like to work here every day and to really care? How can anyone hold the heartbreak of seeing the beautiful spirits of young people ground down in the ever-turning mill of the American prison system? Seeing it not in some abstract way, not in the statistics presented in news stories or in online petitions, but seeing it in person, watching as flawed but inherently good and worthy people are processed through a system that generates money from occupied prison beds. Watching wounded people in need of healing receive more and more wounds instead. I was in awe of those people, those correctional officers and nurses and social workers and others who could go behind the locked doors and the barbed wire every day and never become so hard or jaded that they stopped caring. One day in one of those facilities, I was standing in the TV room with a few other people gathered around a fish tank that someone had salvaged from a thrift store. It was me and 3 or 4 of the residents and a counselor who had worked in that place for a very long time. We were silently watching a new fish acclimating to the water in his plastic bag, floating on the sea of his new home. One of the men explained that the fish was an Oscar and that Oscars can live a long time. Up to 15 years, he said. Another added, I had one that lived for 15 years until he threw himself out of the tank and he ended it all. I guess he was tired of living. The rest of us offered a consoling, and continued to stare at the fish. After a period of silence, the counselor spoke up, saying that she had a fish that was already 12 years old. Someone in the transitional program in the halfway house had snuck the fish in a plastic bag into the facility and left it on her desk. I named him Bill, she said. And then after another pause, she added, and then he went and died. Well, I felt sorry for Bill, the fish that died. But then the counselor said, I still have Bill. He's 12 years old. And then I realized it wasn't the fish that had died after all. After all that time, she was still grieving the death of someone who had passed through the doors of that facility. She still remembered and cared about someone who had been abandoned by the rest of society, someone who had given her a fish. Lately, I've been thinking about all of those people who somehow manage to never stop caring about others. Others who may be very different from them, who may be no relation to them, who the rest of society has abandoned or written off as being worthless or just expendable. I've been thinking about those people who somehow manage to never stop opening their hearts, even though their hearts have been broken countless times. Those people who take in strays and adopt pets from shelters, who nurture wounded wild animals back to health, who foster children whose parents can't care for them, and mentor young people who've been abandoned and betrayed by society. Those people who befriend the unpopular, who invite the weird kid to sit with them at their lunchroom table. Those people who love with their whole hearts. They who mother others who are wounded or alone or frightened or lost, who never receive flowers on Mother's Day. Reading the daily news, it's so easy to become discouraged about humanity, even to feel that the planet would be better off without us. It's easy to only see the villains and cowards, the people who put their wealth above others' health, who spout hatred and are rewarded for it, the people who blithely go about polluting the world or putting others' health at risk for their own pleasure and convenience. These are the people who so often make the headlines, who come to represent humanity as a whole much too often. But humanity is not made up of just these people. There are also the people who Mr. Rogers called the helpers, the ones who run into the crumbling building to save the life of a stranger, the ones who risk their own lives to heal others, the ones who give of themselves without asking for anything in return. When I was a little kid, one of my favorite books was P.D. Eastman's Are You My Mother? It was written in 1960, but it is one of those timeless classics that are still read to and by children today. It tells the story of a little bird who falls from his nest and goes looking for his mother, whom he has never seen. He asks every being he encounters along the way, "Are you my mother?" Animals of different species reply with disdain that he couldn't possibly be their child. He seeks his mother in the form of different inanimate objects, but of course, they are incapable of responding. And finally, he comes upon what to him is a kind of monster, a snort, which we can tell from the illustration is actually a construction vehicle of some kind, maybe a bulldozer. Clearly, the snort cannot be his mother. And the image in the book of the baby bird perched upon the huge metal-toothed monster is pretty frightening. But something amazing happens. The bulldozer lifts the little bird up into the air, into his nest, where he is found by his parent bird. All along, the little baby had been asking, "Are you my mother?" And yet, it's the most unlikely being of all that actually offers him mothering care. Now, we all know that a bulldozer isn't a monster and can't act on its own. It is a person inside that machine who notices a lost little bird and who carefully picks him up and puts him in a place of safety. The baby bird does indeed have a mother. The bird mother who returns to the nest to feed him a nice, juicy worm. But he is also mothered by someone else, by an unknown stranger driving a bulldozer. Every day, each one of us is asked, "Are you my mother?" We are asked by the incarcerated person locked in a prison cell exposed to a deadly virus. We are asked by the immigrant child separated from her parents at the border, vulnerable and terrified. We are asked by the young Black man who is at risk of being shot and killed in the course of just living his life, simply because of the color of his skin. Some of us are, in fact, biological or adoptive mothers of these individuals. But giving birth to someone or legally becoming the parent of someone isn't requisite to mothering them. We mother whenever we care for, advocate for, fight for, nurture, and protect someone who needs our love. The oppressed, the marginalized, the abandoned, and forsaken people of the world ask, "Are you my mother?" The planet asks, "Are you my mother?" Sometimes lost, frightened little baby birds ask, "Are you my mother?" May we find the courage, the strength, the kindness, and the resilience to say yes. On this Mother's Day, I want to leave you with an amazing gift that comes to us thanks to the hard work of members of our choir. And I especially want to lift up and thank Chris Gonzalez for going above and beyond. This is a little description that Chris provided, so you have some background on how this video recording was created. This is Chris. We started with an open invitation for members to submit their own recordings. Some sent audio only and some video. So the first step was mixing an audio track so that everyone who contributed in some way or another could be featured in the first cut, in the final cut. Then I started incorporating the video of everyone who sent one. And then finally, I wanted to use part of the old recording so we could feature all those who weren't able or comfortable sending in something, so that the choir and the congregation as a whole can still see that we are all still the choir together. Unquote. So thank you so much to Chris, to everyone else who helped in making this possible, to Beverly McClary, to Diane Broyles, to all of the choir members. This is The Garden, which was written, the lyrics and the melody by our own Jim Gordon, and arranged by Beverly McClary, performed by the choir of First Unitarian. You will see some new performances, as well as a recorded performance of the choir all together. The Garden by Jim Gordon.
Just before dawn this morning, our garden on earth in darkness was made. Life blooms of all sizes, shapes and colors,
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of love and community which burns in our hearts.
Go now in peace. Go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Blessed be. Have a wonderful Mother's Day. Please join us if you're able in our virtual coffee hour, which will start in about 10 minutes or so. Be safe, be well. My love to you all.